City Council meeting for December 5th. Nathan Samuel, invocation.
Let's pray.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We pray that you'd be with us in the business that we're dealing with that's in front of us. Thank you for the wonderful season that we're in, and pray that it would be a nice time for the children and the families. Thank you for the opportunity to be thankful. I'm coming off of Thanksgiving, and just pray that you would continue to watch over our city. Pray that you'd be the mayor and be with the mayor and the administration and bless them in their decisions, and be with the council as we deal with our decisions as well. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Kane.
Here.
Council Vice President Sellers. Present. Councilperson Gill. Present. Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Council President Gustavny.
Here.
Councilperson Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record show that all council is present.
All right, first up, approval of the agenda, and I know we need to add some things, make some changes.
I want to add Todd Booker and Scott Lewis for a presentation on an ordinance for redistricting.
New business, number 5?
Yes.
All right, new business number 5 is redistricting.
Also, Mr. President, I'd like to add, I guess, number 6. I would like to discuss a letter sent to the Attorney General, Mr. Greg Zeller, and I'd like to get approval from the City Council.
All right, number 6, a letter to Attorney General. Any other changes or additions? Motion to approve as amended. Second. I just would like to add, not add, but it's not on here. We need to add public comment at the end. I guess you make that C, and then D would be City Council comments. So with those additions, we have a motion second to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes to be approved.
Motion approved November 19th minutes. I'll second.
Motion second to approve the minutes of November 19th. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, claims to be approved.
First in your packet is the Common Council for Parks. This is $38,623.86. Request approval for payment. If there's no questions.
I have one question on page 1, and Monica, I don't expect you to answer this. It's something that, just looking through these, on the first page, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parks expenditures to Sounds Unlimited Productions for $12,670. I know that we have talked about expenses before, but seems like we're paying a DJ company quite a bit of money. Next year may be possible to get Paul. I know there's a lot of DJs out there hunting for work. We've got a pretty good sound system. Might be something I'm just throwing out there. For every month through the summer, we've got a pretty good bill to them. So
Okay.
it's good for time.
If no further, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve the parks claims. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, next up, general claims.
In the general fund, the total claims amount to $856,138.28. Request approval if there are no questions.
Monica had a question on page 4. 4 under animal shelter, the very top one, just making sure it's, the payee is correct. It's paying a credit card, but it's for our water bill.
The water bill was late. I paid it on my credit card, and she's reimbursing me.
Okay, just making sure that, that's right.
I'm going to abstain from voting. There's a beautification to Walnut Ridge, a small building there, so I'm going to abstain.
Motion to approve, there's no further questions.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second to approve the general claims. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, TIF claims.
TIP claims in the amount of $520,987.45. These were approved by the Redevelopment Commission at their last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the TIF claims. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you very much.
Next up, mayor's comments. The mayor here.
He's not, he did ask me to bring both to the council and the public's attention one item, and this may have something to do with the letter that Mr. Smith had talked about. The Attorney General's office announced that they're seeking an emergency suspension of the doctor's license that practices at the pain management clinic. That hearing is set for Thursday,
December 6th.
December the 6th.
Will you be attending it?
I hadn't,
Oh, they-
I just heard about it today, so,
I didn't know if anybody from the city's planning.
I'm going
Are
to
you
ask
going?
it. No, I'm going to ask to have a letter sent from us later.
and I guess one other thing, if the public has some concerns, I'm sure that they can contact the Attorney General's office by phone, and they can probably give them an email address if they have any correspondence that they would like to add to that, but I do know that the Attorney General Zeller's office announced that today.
All right. Report of the clerk. Ms. Conlon.
At this time, I'd like to ask that I give my comment to Larry Wilder and report with the court.
Mr. Wilder.
Ms. Collins asked me to address you all regarding the matter that if you are a historian, and I know Mr. Zastobny is, and of course Mr. Smith recalls about a year ago, this time when you were having your meeting before you became a second-class city, and Ms. Sellers was here as well as Mr. Samuel, that Ms. Conlon had her attorney at the time, Stephen Velker, addressed the council as to what her duties were going to be when she assumed office as the first historic elected clerk of the city of Jeffersonville. And now you, the first historic elected 9-person county of the city of Jeffersonville, get to once again hear an attorney on behalf of the clerk address the issue of what the statutory lawful duties of the clerk are. So you have a little bit of a background and an understanding where we've gone. As many of you know, having had an opportunity to be a part of meetings with Ms. Conlon, as well as potentially meetings with Judge Pierce, the question which came about was, under the statute, what does the word "is" mean? And I think I met with you all at one point in time, and I told you that my father told me the word "is" means you is wrong, which meant I was always wrong. Well, the statute says she is the clerk of the court, and the Indiana State Board of Accounts, in an audit opinion that was handed down on November 20th, 2012, affirmed Harry Wilder's belief, and he taught me that the word "is" means "is." And I sent all of you all copies of this, and I think each of you had a chance to read it. And you might now agree with me that the word "is" means she is the clerk of the court, which now brings you to the historic determination you must make, which is now the clerk of the city of Jeffersonville is now the clerk of the court for all intents and purposes. She must now assume the duties and obligations of the clerk. And then the answer to the big question becomes, where are the clerk's offices, how will those positions be funded, and what is it that you do next. As I think we talked at one point in time, Ms. Conlon made a proposal to the judge that was a proposal that would have offered an opportunity to be maybe more financially prudent than you're going to have to be now. It actually was her offer to the judge to share some authority that she believed correctly she had. And unfortunately, what has happened is the judge chose to ask the State Board of Accounts to involve themselves in a family dispute, and now Ms. Conlon's position has become one of, if she disavows a multiple-page document of the State Board of Accounts, she potentially becomes involved in either malfeasance or misfeasance. Therefore, the ability to make an expression of compromise with Judge Pierce is gone. She has now been mandated and dictated by the folks who audit that she now must do these things. Therefore, and I expressed to Judge Pierce's attorney this morning in a letter, we are unable to reach the compromise we had offered so many months ago. So now, I think that on behalf of Ms. Conlon, you all must begin to determine how you are going to assist her, because by statute, you must provide her with office space and staff to fulfill her legal duties. So now you must, as the council, determine how you're going to budget, where her offices will be, and then Ms. Harmon will now know what the finances are of the city. And a lot of this part doesn't make any sense to a lot of people, but until today, the city clerk or the auditor, you're not the auditor, what do you call it, the controller? The controller wasn't getting the money. So now, as you see in this multi-page documents, all the money must come in to the clerk. All the money must then be deposited with the controller, and you all now will have some idea of where all the money is that was coming in and goes in and out of the city court. It's something that's taken nearly a year to get done, and I can't offer a reason or an answer as to why. I just became involved in September, so I guess I can take responsibility for causing it to take 60 days to get done. But it is very important. I think if you reread this letter from the State Board of Accounts, what you'll understand and agree with me is that Vicki Conlon is now on record as being the person that must do these things, because is. Now, and I'm always kind of, I think it's important to be clear and candid. The judge can choose to disregard this letter, and I would be remiss to tell you otherwise. And the judge can say the State Board of Accounts, in his opinion, is not a court and is not a binding party to any decision or determination. And there's two other brilliant lawyers to the left of me that have done this as much, if not more than me, can tell you that it is not a binding order making you follow. So I'm not so certain how you are going to handle that piece of this puzzle. But I think it's on your all's shoulders and the administration's shoulders, possibly at this point, to approach the court and find out whether the judge is going to acknowledge the State Board of Accounts mandate, or whether the judge himself is going to sue you, sue the clerk, and potentially, I guess, sue the mayor, and say, I refuse to follow the State Board of Accounts audit opinion because it's merely an audit opinion. So on the eves of Christmas and giving and wonderment, I will offer you that as something to consider, something you probably can address. And I suspect January 1st would be a good time to have that in order. On behalf of Ms. Conlon, I will tell you, we will sue no one. And that may shock a lot of people when we say, we will sue no one. We will rely on you all, and when we'll rely on the process. However, so you'll know, we are all now on notice, all of us. Ms. Harmon included, she appreciates notice as well as anyone that we are all, my client included, potentially engaging in conduct that is in direct derogation of the law of the state of Indiana. And when I do things like that, I usually choose to do them by accident, not on purpose. Anybody got any questions?
I kind of do, but it's not about the office space. I don't know if it go to who it would go to, but Monica, I have some questions and concerns about certain accounts that's with the city court. Is there some way that, I don't know if that's something you asked for, or if Vicki, is there some way we can get an audit done before Vicki assumes something like that?
One of the things, if you recall in the letter, I think that you all received an email that I maybe copied you on, that would be something that I would advise Ms. Conlon to request that you all fund and or authorize a full audit of all of the accounts before she takes over the responsibility. For obvious reasons, no one wants to potentially inherit someone else's mistake.
I have a question, it is for Monica. The budget for her office, was that put in this budget? So we can't change that then until after January?
We can accommodate it as soon as January 1 comes
Okay.
around, but we did not provide for it because we did not know.
No, at the time.
We did not have a final determination.
So do we need to put together a group of council people to sit down with, I guess, Ms. Conlon, and set the parameters, and here it is? I mean, we need to...
My personal recommendation would be that someone contact the judge. He has an attorney, Mr. Miller, Gary Miller, and see if they would like to take the chance. And I know that's been tried several times, and for whatever reason, the judge won't make that opportunity. I'd say more encouraged to do that now than maybe before, and see if you all can come to terms. And I will say this, and you all heard me say it in closed doors, the court runs spectacular. It's a great place for you to go and address the cases that you address. So, you know, Ms. Conlon, however, is an elected official. This position is created by statute. She must follow the law and do her job. So I don't think if anyone is imputing the operation of the court in as much as the financial part of it must be followed by Ms. Conlon and Ms. Hartman. And there's an issue where the probation funding and money goes, and I think that Mr. Lau, Tom tricks me all the time because I've got Lowe's and Lau's that are lawyers I have to deal with. Tom has the opinion that is shared by the Attorney General that the probation money comes in and it actually flows through the county. It flows from us to her to the county and back. And that's not happened ever, to my knowledge. So there's things to get yourself in trouble. And God knows I know about that, getting in trouble, and I'm just trying to keep her out of trouble.
I guess my question is, because we're going to have some, obviously some personnel issues, financial issues, which is what we're involved in.
Right.
So we're going to have to know the flow of that money because of the funding of the personnel.
I think that's probably a conversation that I would try to have with the judge.
Okay.
Or his attorney.
I was going to say, we really should, probably Scott needs to contact the judge.
Well, his attorney, since he's...
His attorney, yeah.
He has a different attorney now, doesn't he?
Correct. Mr. Miller is his counsel now rather than Mr. Ball.
So I guess that's the next step.
And it's probably post-haste.
Well,
Obviously, we can't take action on amending the budget
Right.
until after January 1st.
correct.
But we need to start that process to know what action we need to take. So, I mean, it's your direction. I will contact Mr. Miller, who is the judge's attorney, and try to make that request and begin that
We need a
process.
motion.
And
for
I
that.
think it needs to be done within a short period of time because we've dealt with this for months.
Absolutely.
And if they don't want to pay, then we just need to get the funding and make a move.
Scott, let me ask you this. Although we may amend our budget after January 1st to accommodate, that doesn't guarantee that the money's flowing through the city court now is necessarily going to come to us until we have a legal decision made that that's the way it should be routed, correct?
Well,
If he agrees,
If he agrees. But if he doesn't agree, then
we, as the fiscal body, we can take action regarding employees and space and so forth. We still have that prerogative.
Right.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the money that's flowing through the city court now, that won't flow to the council to fund those positions until there's a decision made, correct? Till the legal decision's made?
Well, I think we can, in
enact certain ordinances that would allow us to do that,
Okay.
regardless if there's a legal decision made or not.
And he would have to challenge the
He would have to
ordinances.
challenge it.
He would have to sue you to challenge your ordinances to challenge that. And I think what Mr. Glover may be referring to is the specific disbursements for the probation users fund as it relates to employees who have the hybrid functions.
Correct.
Which was our negotiation where we tried to get the judge to let us continue that practice. And whether or not that's something that we can do now, because he chose to go forward the way he did, I'm not sure.
Okay. But we'll put on those, we have to go forward.
And of course, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Lowe may have different, Mr. Lau may have different opinions, but I think that my client is now on notice that if she does not follow the State Board of Accounts, which is her and her answering board, she is engaged in, at a minimum, malfeasance, at a maximum misfeasance.
I mean, in my opinion, I've read the State Board of Accounts opinion, and I think it's very clear as to what they're saying. Even though technically it's not an order from a court, I still think that when the State Board of Accounts issues an opinion to a municipality, I do believe there is a legal duty to follow that opinion unless the opinion is rescinded or a court order says otherwise. At this point in time, my recommendation is I think we need to abide by that State Board of Accounts opinion, which clearly says that Ms. Conlon is the clerk of the court, not just for the money, but also for the records.
Well, like I said, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, although we may fund it, we're going to have, there's not necessarily going to be that flow of the money to fund it. Right. That we're going to have to find it up front, hoping that the money's turned over to the clerk.
And one of my comments might be, Mr. Glover, and this may be something that you consider, his budget, the judge's budget, relative to all general fund expenditures, in my humble opinion, is now her budget. So the gap of funding that exists is the gap that exists between general fund money and probation user fee funding. So that would be your gap.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
So you've got money to a point. The question is, how much has he gapped it by virtue of that? And again, I think it was a correct, his analysis of how he was paying those folks is correct, because I was in that court 3 times a week, and every individual in there was involved in the probation user fee process. The real question becomes, is the clerk or a separate entity through the probation department going to collect the probation user fee? I believe that opinion says the clerk can do that and shall do that, and her choice is to do that, which also puts the auditing function here so you know where those fluid funds go. And I think the question that maybe Mr. Owen had asked about that nobody could figure out, or maybe Tom brought it up, there was a fund out there with $150,000 that nobody really knew what it was for. And so I think Ms. Harmon can now find out if there's $150,000 of money that the judge has in a budget that nobody seems to know why that balance is there and what it's for, and that may be money that can be used to help fund the court. But, I mean, I don't know.
I think that's why she wants to get an audit, yeah.
Yes.
Find out what's going on.
That was just one account, but there...
Yeah, that's right. Ms. Gill asked that question. Why was there $150,000? Nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew what it was spent for. Nobody knew. And there was some speculation it's court cash bonds that are held, that are ultimately dispersed, but until you determine that. And then there becomes a question of how long you have to hold a court cash bond because of before it skeets to the city. Or to the state.
All right, so Scott, you're going to reach out to the judge, see...
To his attorney.
To his attorney, I'm sorry, to his attorney. And we are on notice that we have to fund...
Correct.
Under the proper budget.
And who do we follow, Ms. Gill? What's our next step? We want to have an audit. Where do we go there? We want that done ASAP. Where does that start?
We just contact the State Board of Accounts and ask for it.
Well, they review them every year, don't they?
Well,
They do.
they probably won't.
Yeah, but we need something a little more, we need something more immediate.
Yeah, we need an audit.
I would suggest you engage in private
Mhm.
firm to do that.
Can-
We have to.
Can PUF funds pay for an audit of their own accounts?
I would think if it's a function of PUF, it absolutely could.
The problem, you're also reviewing the other nonprofit funds. I don't believe the funds would be used for that purpose.
Scott, when you talk to the other attorney, can you request that they have an audit done before turning over the books, assuming they would want everything disclosed?
Well, now, are you asking me to have him have the audit? I mean,
I think it should come from, I think it should come from,
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, I don't think you should ask the judge to do this on the
Yeah.
audit.
To be the client.
Yeah, right.
If you're not the client, then they are reporting to the
Yeah.
judge, and you want, you or the clerk, or whatever.
Yeah, it would either be the appropriate body would be the council or the clerk. Or the council.
And Scott, let me ask this real quick. Since we have this fund with this approximately $150,000 sitting out there, and don't know where it came from, don't know where it's being spent on, do we have the authority to freeze that fund now before an audit's done, so we know that that money's sitting there?
he's accountable for those funds, right? So if they're out and it's not there, he's gonna have to,
But my question is, you know, I don't disagree with that, but if the money's gone and it's accounted for, then,
But here's the concern, if it is bond money, and people that have paid that bond then have the right to collect it when the case is over, and they go to get it if it's frozen, we may run into some third-party issues of, because you only have a certain period of time, then, once they come in and show the proper receipt to get the bond money back,
Exactly.
that creates its own issues then with outside parties in the fund.
so really what you're telling me is we have no way, other than an audit and showing that that money is gone now, and it was spent here, here, and here, we really have no way of controlling that money to make sure it goes to the proper places.
Well, I agree with Tom that if you try to freeze it, you're
Yeah.
setting up yourself a potential third-party claim.
Okay.
So Wednesday, do we need to have Monica contact a third party and start an audit like tomorrow? Is that our step we want to do?
I suggest, what,
I was just gonna say, Brian, politically though, pretty much all of the Jeffersonville universe is now on notice that all this is going on. It would be rather silly, I think, to misspend or to suddenly spend $150,000.
I don't disagree, but we've been arguing for 8 months over the definition of is, which seems a little bit ridiculous, so I wouldn't put anything past it, so.
I'm not disagreeing with you there, but
I'm not sure, what are we looking for in the audit? Where this money came from?
I just said it's been properly spent, and before that money's taken, before Vicki Connell takes that money, I would want to know that it's been used appropriately and with all receipts and
The
things.
state bank account says every year?
It's a different, the state board of accounts is a different type of audit than a pure financial audit.
And so you'll know and understand, and Ms. Harmon can confirm this, the city court's operation of its finances has operated separate from the city. And you get deposits how often?
Not as frequently as required.
And so if you look at the statute, the frequency is every week, and you get them about every 2 months.
Depends, but monthly or 2 months, yeah, it's not as frequent.
And Ms. Harmon also has informed us that at one point, the court was $75,000 in arrears on an account, correct?
One time.
And are they not current?
I have not.
So they, because they're not,
We need it on.
because they're not within your parameters, they operate outside of your purview. But he's not done anything wrong. Right. I mean, but by no means.
no, it's more for clarification.
We need to move on. If you want to move forward with it, let's take a motion for it, or move it, talk about it for next meeting, but let's go ahead and move forward. We have a pretty long agenda to wait.
I'll make a motion to go on with the audit.
Second. I have a motion second to have an audit of the,
I'm just curious, for a detailed motion, are you authorizing?
Monica.
I would think, wouldn't that be the
You want to be a
logical?
little more detailed.
Okay.
we have motions,
I have no problem. I mean, I would assume you would give quote just to
Yeah.
engage.
I guess it makes sense since she's our controller. That's
fine.
So I'll ask her to pursue that.
I will work with her, that's okay. Make sure
And
we
you'd
get
be the one?
three. Yeah.
okay, so who are you directing to do the audit?
I didn't hear what Vicki just had said. Vicki, are you?
She said she'd be willing to do it, or she'd be willing to work with Monica, either way.
Scott, which do you, I mean, technically, it's all Vicky's responsibility, so should we go to...
Vicky shouldn't be the one doing the audit, because...
She needs to be
She needs to be a bit of hands-off.
Right.
So that's just my...
So we have a motion and a second to ask Monica to do an audit of the court.
to hire someone to do a third party.
Yeah.
Local.
3 quotes.
Okay.
Local third party.
Keep the money in Jeff.
Monica, do you understand?
I understand what I need to do.
Well, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
So with your all's acquiescence, I will leave and get off the clock at my 1/2 normal rate, which is what I'm charging.
All right. We appreciate that. That was the longest clip we've had so far. So. You didn't get a very good look. Ms. Carmen, would you like to say anything?
No, I think he set it off.
All right. All right, move on. Department head reports. Surveying department heads. Oh, I see one. Chief Hedrick.
I'll be brief. Martha, stop me if you have any of these issues on your agenda already later in the meeting. I had 3 separate issues, all financial. Josh will handle the communications one on the agenda. The first is the 100 series that we talked about. I think everybody on the council is aware of it. Is that something that you have?
I have it accounted for in the ordinance that's included in the
Okay.
packet that it would be beneficial to them all to hear this.
Okay. If you all have any questions about that, I know I've talked to you individually. Most of you, if not, you've seen it through email. But the transfer of 100 series, and I know, Ed, you had mentioned both Edit or Lloyd, so I don't know which one the council chooses, but I know there's been discussion in both of those areas, so. The other issue was a simple transfer, which is probably also is a transfer from the 200 series to the 300 series to cover shortage in the 300. That's has to be done through the council, right, series transfer. And then the last issue I had was the, I also met some of you on this, is the Lloyd spending for, and some of the end of the year Lloyd spending for hydrants that was put it for hydrants and communications. And the Survival Out trailer, we're going to use that money toward communications, basically, since we're going to try to get that on a grant. A couple other small items, I think there's a stove, a pressure washer, and some things.
So Chief, nothing's changed since we
No,
met?
nothing's changed since we talked
Okay.
Friday or Thursday. But just wanted to see if you had any questions before. And I'm still a little confused on the Lloyd spending. I know that items over a certain dollar amount, is it 5,000? There's an ordinance? Is it 1,000, 1,000?
It's a 400 series.
Okay. So I wanted to bring those to you. Some of those are below that, but if you had any questions about those.
Mine's 5,000.
Is
All of
it?
a sudden you're thinking
Yeah, we've
5,000.
never sent it by 1,000.
Capital is 1,000. Any capital expenditure over $1,000
Mm.
would drive.
I'm thinking it's 5,000.
I was thinking it's 5,000 too.
We'll check. You may be right, but I'm thinking it's 5.
Maybe 2 different rules. I capitalize versus what you approved.
Okay.
Moving forward, Monica, I know this came up with, that had to do with longevity and stuff like that, payments. Have we made clear, or do we know how to clarify that for next year so we don't run into this problem in December of next year?
Yeah, I've met with Monica. We've got some meetings, we're going to meet monthly to work out, to make sure that we're on our appropriations report, that we have those, but also that was my error on the longevity. I don't think I'll do that again, but, and I explained to you, some of you how that happened, but,
And so, Chief, just so that the public knows, this shortfall is no fault of his. This is because we had a firefighter that was supposed to be going to Afghanistan.
right, we had a firefighter with orders to go to Afghanistan.
Those orders were rescinded, so
Those were
we had a
rescinded.
firefighter to replace that, and he didn't go, so
And
it...
then one who did not return.
And if there is a positive side of that, we have a fire, when our next firefighter leaves, which is scheduled for July of next year, we will not have to replace that firefighter for that
and he
reason.
evened out.
Did you get that in the minutes, Vicki? Might want to underline that.
Did you get bold highlight?
Bold highlight.
I'm also half rate tonight, so I don't know if that's...
Thank you.
Any questions? So you had all that stuff.
So our 3 firefighters are back from New York, correct?
Yes. The 3 firefighters are back from New York, yes. They did an outstanding job. I actually met with some Homeland Security guys in Indianapolis today, and they were really, did a great job.
Good.
One of them, I think they want to take away, he did an outstanding job in the
What
finance
three
section.
went?
I'm sorry?
What 3 firemen went?
It was Travis Sharp, he's become a finance expert on emergency management dollars, which is important, probably, if we ever have one. Mike McCutcheon is a safety officer, and then Rick Van Gilder is operations section, strategy tactics guy.
Okay, good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else here for department head reports? All right, seeing no one, go to unfinished business. First up, Dennis Julius, economic impact study. A couple of weeks ago at the last council meeting, we spoke about a group that was fighting the I-65 bridge and the tolls and the economic impact that it's going to have on our community, Clarksville, really New Albany and so forth. And I'm not going to go back over the numbers or anything else. One of the reasons that we tabled it 2 weeks ago was how are we going to be able to funnel funds from Jeffersonville to help with this cause. And we've been talking with Scott again. We may have to come up with an interlocal agreement with tourism so that we would give the money to tourism and then tourism could facilitate that. Am I right, Scott?
Well, there has to be some restrictions.
I understand.
Yeah, but the money's not, none of the money that we would be providing is given to a private entity or whatever. So that you use or retain by a tourism board under their statute for whatever legitimate purposes that they've used it for under their statute.
Yeah.
It had to be done by the interlocal agreement.
And I don't know how Clarksville's doing it, I don't know how tourism's doing it because they're tax dollars as well. My comment to this is, I think it's very important that Jeffersonville shows that we are opposed to the tolls and the injustice of that the economic study showed that there's going to be a dramatic impact on our city. So I guess what we would do, and Scott helped me out here, is we would take a vote to approve up to $10,000 maybe through gaming. That's what Clarksville and Tourism have put up. Providing that we can come up with an interlocal agreement with tourism, we would have Scott help with the language that our attorney would approve, and take part in this challenge to the imposition of the tolls of I-65.
There's one word I want to add, and that's a negative impact to our community.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Does that address the exit, the downtown exit issue? Well, Nathan, you had that question, and I think I sent you an email a week or so ago. The exits going north, you will still have exit 0. Going south, you're going to have to get off somewhere around Stainsford Avenue. So, that's a big one. That's big.
If I understand it correctly, we're basically giving money to private business owners for a lawsuit, right?
Well, it may not even be a lawsuit. It may be,
Well, when you say that would not be part of this interlocal agreement, there have to be certain provisions in there that something like that would not be allowed.
yeah, but we would not enter into a lawsuit. And I'm good with
No, I
that.
mean, any money that we're given would not be used
For a lawsuit.
for a private entity.
And I'm good with that too.
Depending upon it'd have to be written in a way where any money that under the interlocal agreement is being provided to tourism board, that would be used by tourism board exclusively under their statutory powers.
Right.
Where you can't allow them to be given money to any.
No, I understand. All I'm saying is, I want to be transparent, I want to be above board. I would like for Scott to put the agreement together.
So we're giving money for a study then?
It's not going to be a study, it's going to be, this group has not decided, we met with the attorneys out of Indianapolis. They're not saying that the best avenue right now would be the lawsuit. It may be to challenge them on some of the heard decisions that they've made. A perfect example was there was a study from a Boston group that came to Jeffersonville from the Indiana Bridge Authority, Finance Authority. They interviewed 29 people in Jeffersonville to make their study. And then they conference called 81 more people to do a comprehensive study for your city. And I think that's pretty ridiculous. So, I don't, and their study came back that it'll have a negative impact on Jeffersonville.
Well, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I understand that it's going to have a negative impact, but I just don't know what the money's for. If it's not for a lawsuit, it's not directly for a study.
It could be to challenge that they have dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. These attorneys out of Indianapolis, this isn't their first rodeo. And when we had a meeting with them last week, their first conference with us was, don't be misled. This may not be a full-blown lawsuit. This may be letters sent to the Bridges Authority to question, have you done this and was this done properly? And were the dates followed when you did this? And have you recognized the negative impact study? There was an article in the paper tonight where Paul Fetter from Clarksville was saying that really if the Indiana Finance Department looked at all the data, he's not sure they could go ahead with the downtown bridge with the negative impact. That may be an avenue to pursue. So
Scott, that is legal then, to give an attorney money through the city on behalf of...
No, what I'm saying is I would not recommend or draft an interlocal agreement where the money's going to private attorneys who aren't involved, who are representing another private entity. I mean, without talking with the tourism board, what I'm saying is that if any money's given to the tourism board, it has to be used by the tourism board itself. The money that we're giving them, they can't take our money and give it to a private entity.
So could it be used, I'm just throwing this out, so could it be used like to inform people this is what's going to, in Jeffersonville and Clarksville, to do flyers or to do some kind of media thing to inform the people this is going to hurt tourism in southern Indiana? Right, well, let's say it's going to hurt tourism, right.
And it's whatever statutory...
Right, so they could, that type of...
They've already put 10,000 in.
Because you have to agree with that. You agree because it's considered like a quasi-political subdivision. They get certain tax money, they have a board that has to comply with those requirements. So
This is
you would have to,
Expo and tourism,
services.
10,000.
Jeffersonville.
Well, and then there's a lot of private.
And we're going to fund what
Just putting money into
So
it
the
too.
service would have to be, you have to put in a local agreement that it's something to our benefit.
Right.
Whatever they're doing. I mean, it can be done legally, but you have to restrain it that the money can't be...
I got you.
Right.
To a private law firm or...
Yeah.
And Nathan, go ahead, you want to say something?
At the last meeting, I contacted some folks from the state, a lady named Abby Weingart, who's, I don't know her title, well, it's at the bottom of her email probably. She's with NDOT Legislative Affairs, she's their director. And has given me different information than what I'm hearing. For example, it says, contrary to recent reports, the IFA's economic impact does not project a $7.5 billion negative impact on the I-65 corridor. We have no idea where that number came from, certainly not from any study conducted by either state regarding this project. You can read the study and the impact, and she gives the website. And then she also gives, she gave me where you, as Dennis said, northbound, exit 0 is still open. There'll be one at 6th Street and then at 10th Street. So going northbound, we gain an exit. Coming southbound, we lose exit 0, the one right at the bridge, the curves. But we had one at 6th Street and then the regular one at 10th. And she gave me a map. I was trying to see if we could put the map up so we could see. I'm just curious, I wonder if we should just have a workshop or something where we can put the map up and see what we're talking about and try to get some clarity, because we voted twice to say no to tolls. And I don't know how many times you keep saying no, you know, maybe we just keep doing it in the squeaky wheel, if that's our thought. You know, I just keep hearing, I'm getting mixed messages, and it's hard to know what the straight scoop is. I'm sure NDOT wants us to know what they want us to know. And I'm sure the folks that are doing the legwork here on the ground, they either have additional information or something. So I'm just...
Are you looking for a motion?
That's where I'm curious.
Yes. Well, Nathan, this is the 3 pages I printed off. Attached is the economic impact study done by the state of Indiana for the Ohio River Bridges project. And the things that I read to you guys 2 weeks ago was verbatim out of this. So I don't know where she's coming with that. Even page 18 was the thing for downtown businesses. So what I would like to do, so that we don't keep dragging our feet, is, and I agree with Nathan, knowledge is king, and if we could make a motion to approve the funds with Scott getting with Jim Keith, Tourism Bureau, their attorney, and working out some language that prohibits us from breaking the law in any way, then... You want to give $10,000 to the Tourism Bureau without having an agreement with them?
We have the agreement
It would
first.
be subject.
Subject to.
Subject to,
The agreement would have to come back for the board's approval. And any local agreement by law,
So then can you...
municipalities have to be approved by both the executive and the fiscal body. So
So the money
we
won't...
would have to have the executive of the city to also agree to an interlocal agreement.
I'm just wondering how much time we're going to spend as a council over an issue that both governors have agreed upon, that millions and billions of dollars have been set aside. I mean, how much time do we want to spend as a council to go to executives and plannings and workshops? And I mean, this project has been moving forward since I was a glimmer in my dad's eye. I mean, how much time do we spend on this? I mean...
Well, my comment is this, the East End, all the energy has been put on Kentucky and the East End Bridge and Spaghetti Junction. They've never come downtown and talked to, when you talk about calling business peoples and exit zeros and all this downtown, that's not been considered. All we've heard about is that tunnel in Kentucky and Spaghetti Junction. There's been very little time, if any time, spent. For an example, you're talking about a massive amount of water, and Lisa can be familiar with this. There's a massive amount of water coming off that bridge. Nobody's told us, where's that going? Is it going to Clarksville? Is it going to We don't know that. We can't even handle the water we have. So everything you're saying is true, but it's had very little impact on how it's going to do us. And that's what's discouraging to me. Is it's all about Spaghetti Junction and the tunnel.
And I don't disagree with you. I'm just thinking, you know, when you're a small pond, a small fish in a big pond, I'm just wondering how much impact we're going to have.
I'm just going to swim upstream till the water's cut off.
Make a motion.
I mean, that's all I can do.
Any other discussions?
That's what
Somebody
we're
wanna-
standing for Jeff.
yeah, exactly.
That's why we're...
Do you want to make a motion? I understand why we need a motion if it's going to come back to us for approval anyway. Why wouldn't we just make the motion when we have a proposal in front of us? Do you want our attorney to spend the time to put it together, try to...
We have to have a motion for that, to have him to spend.
Well, I mean, if there's not 5 people interested, then why waste the time?
I'll make a motion now. I'll make a motion that we move forward with our attorney Scott Lewis preparing this to make sure everything fits properly, and that we will spend up to $10,000 of joint venture. Again, Scott working it out with tourism and the town of Clarksville, and the money will come from gaming.
And
I'll
then it
make that
has
as-
to come back to the council.
But once it gets finalized and Scott, then we can come back. I don't know however he words, it's fine with me. But I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second to instruct our attorney to work on an interlocal agreement for us to be able to spend up to $10,000. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye.
Have a roll call.
Yeah, let's take a roll call vote.
Sure. Councilperson Smith.
Yes.
Councilperson Payne.
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers.
Yes.
Councilperson Gill.
Yes.
Councilperson Glover.
No.
Councilpresident Sostovny.
Yes.
Councilperson Julius.
Yes.
Councilperson Owen.
No.
Councilperson Samuel.
No.
Okay.
Have this come back next meeting, and thank you. Move forward. Next up, Josh Thompson, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement pertaining to emergency response communication.
Good evening. Hopefully this is a little bit simpler.
Nothing simple.
No, it is not. I believe both attorneys have taken a look at the document and have essentially signed off on it. This is a document that we talked about last week, interlocal agreement with New Albany concerning public safety communications P25 system. Any questions?
And we still have a 6-member board?
Yes.
And how did we tweak that out if a problem arises?
I think the idea, I talked to both attorneys today, the idea of having the 6-member board was so that we would have to, the members would have to come to some sort of resolution together. They don't have any kind of tie-breaking mechanism in place.
So what happens if they don't? That can happen
My
very
professional
easily.
opinion, it forces you to come to an agreement where it takes the entire system.
Yeah, then they...
Scott, have you reviewed it and we're good with it? Yeah, we'll start with Tom. We're just, since the last meeting you asked me to review, I mean, I've reviewed it, I spoke with Tom about it, I mean, I'm fine with the way it is now. Obviously, if there's other entities or municipalities that would be added to this joint communications board or whatever, then obviously then this would have to be amended down the road. Right now, just part of where it's just considering the law. So,
And the other thing about it too is before any other entities can be added to it, the board that's provided within the agreement would have to approve the addition of those.
Right, and that's something that we talked to Josh earlier about, is when this was first done under the previous administration, when it was brought under the previous council, I should say, that was part of what encouraged us to go with this, is that they were going to try to get other people to come in, and it would make our costs, it offset our costs. So I just want to make sure that that's not something where they are trying to get people to come on.
No, yeah, I envision this becoming the communication system of this general area, not just Jeffersonville and New Albany.
I'll make a motion for 2012 R20.
Second.
A motion second to approve 2012 R20. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Josh?
That wasn't bad.
Next up, Monica Harmon. 2012 OR 59, it passed on the first and second reading.
Motion to approve on the final reading.
Second.
Unless something's changed.
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second to pass 2012 OR 59 on the third and final reading. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, next up, Ms. Harmon.
This was passed on the first and second reading. I did make it a correction to the attachment to remove the reference to the clerk treasurer. It is now the controller. And this is the investment, I believe this was passed on first and second. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It has it on here, yes.
And so requesting passage on the third. Again, we're dealing with investing our funds.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pass 2012 OR 60 on the third and final reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Motion to approve 2012 R22.
Can you all
Sorry.
slow down just a second?
What's your rush, Matt? Is that because you're ready?
Next up, Ms. Harmon.
That one's not mine.
2012 R22, a resolution of the common council authorizing the investment of public funds.
This was tabled at the last meeting. It needs to, obviously the ordinance needs to
Ordinance
pass.
had to pass first, right. Motion states.
First and second reading, or?
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
First reading? First and
One and only.
second.
I have a motion second to pass 2012 R22. Any discussion?
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Ms. Holman, 2012 OR 61. That's passed on the first and second reading.
And requesting, there has been no changes, requesting passage on third and final.
And the purpose of this ordinance is to repeal...
Close inactive funds that are no longer serving their purpose. Any funds that have funds remaining in them have been identified as to how they will be dispersed. Most of them will revert back to the general fund.
We passed this on the first and second last meeting, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
We haven't talked about this, but I do have a little bit of an issue because we're taking, especially funds in the Parks Department, several non-reverting funds and combining them. I just want to make sure that we're not inadvertently putting our funds in one pot and our funds are available for whatever reason.
Passage of this ordinance, that does not impact, that's just on this attachment. There's a separate ordinance that addresses your, Matt.
Oh, non-reverting ordinance?
Right, this one is just closing funds. It has nothing to do with the parks funds in terms of merging them.
We're on 61.
We're on 61.
The 61 addresses on the attachment, merge the following into Parks Activities Fund.
Correct. I just was identifying all the funds, and the attachment for the top part of it is the funds that are being closed.
And this isn't the one repealing the Parks Authority, right?
I never repealed the Parks Authority.
Which one was it in?
That's 63.
All right, I just want to make sure.
I think the issue is that the attached, where it says whereas the city council is the fiscal body, okay, and then it says whereas it has been determined the funds listed on attachment A are no longer required. This is attachment A?
That's attachment A. So then I need to amend the attachment to delete,
Yes.
correct, to remove those.
Yes. Yes.
Those down there can be removed. They are not pertinent to this ordinance. Anything below the merge I am doing is asking that you close everything that's listed here from the top, from Fund 205 to 425. And I can see how this would be misleading. My apologies.
So everything below 425 insurance claim fund is deleted.
It is not relevant to this ordinance and can be deleted. The attachment can be corrected and removed.
So,
The jump TIF replacement,
That was merged into there's one TIF fund.
what is it?
There's no activity there.
Okay.
so as long as attachment A is excluding Fund 209, 215, 216, 217, 220, 225, and 240,
And 355 and 366 and 409.
I'm not
sorry I didn't get to you sooner about it.
That's all right.
Replacement?
No, but
I will provide Ms. Conlon a correction to the attachment so it's perfectly clear what you're passing.
Okay.
The TIF replacement was a short-term fund that was created because they changed the way TIF revenues were generated when they changed the tax, they changed the assessed values,
Okay.
the rules for the assessed values for the state. So it created a shortfall in some cities, so they allowed you to make that up in a TIF replacement.
Okay, got it.
And so that no longer.
And the negative in there has been corrected. That was a posting error. This was balances at a certain date and time.
Okay. That's what was throwing me off, because it was a negative balance.
But I will correct this so that it's clear.
Motion to approve with corrections. Second. I have a motion and a second to approve 2012 OR 61 on third reading with the changes that some funds are, some of the writing on the attachment is taken off. I do have a question though.
Sure.
Under major moves, was there a balance there?
Yes, there was, and those funds were from when the bridge was closed, and as I proposed in the ordinance, what I'll be doing is splitting that equally, because both sanitation and the police department are involved in those bridge closures, and propose that in the future, any bridge closure fees that we do derive would be split between the two departments into their non-reverting funds.
Well, I know that's first created here was a result of the governor saying the turnpike and those monies were sent to the communities to be spent for road work.
Correct.
So,
all of those monies have been expended.
okay, so there's been additional monies put in from the bridge closures, and that's, okay.
That's correct.
And Mike, this is just being done just to clean up the books? I mean, is this going to make this...
This is housekeeping.
Okay.
Yes. It should be done on a regular basis, and I don't know if it has taken place in the past, but as a fiscal body, you establish funds, and if those funds no longer serve the purpose, you in turn have to close those accounts.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, passed on third reading. Next up, Ms. Harmon, 2012 OR 62.
Right. This originally was tabled as a concern to Mr. Lewis and Mr. Lau regarding we had some funds in here, or fees that we felt like needed to be advertised for 90 days, even though there was no change in the rate. We rewrote this ordinance to obtain the objective, which was to merge all three of these funds into one. We aren't changing the fees. All we're doing is depositing all the revenues that were separated into three different funds and putting them into one. And we eliminated the reference to we kept the ordinance that relates to those fees active. We did not repeal it.
And what were the three funds?
The three funds were OR 2009-11, 97 OR 63, and 2004 OR 2. It states if you'll see in the second, that it states that all provisions other than where the fees are deposited basically still remain in effect. We are not repealing them. We're just asking to deposit the funds all in one fund.
Right, and so you're putting together funds from the loan, the false alarm fund,
Correct.
non-reverting automobile fund,
Correct.
and police SWAT non-reverting fund.
Correct.
Money that goes into the non-reverting automobile fund, what monies go into there?
Oh,
Is that when we sell vehicles, does that money go back in there?
that does, and there's also, I think that gun permits possibly fund in that, and I need Ann Langley. She's the one that's yeah.
So by doing this, you're basically saying that any monies that would have gone into any of these funds could now be used for anything in the police department?
No, anything in that, well, within those non-reverting.
Just within the definitions of those three non-reverting funds? But not, you could use automobile monies to come in to use for SWAT services, right?
If you commingle them, I guess you could, possibly, yeah.
I guess,
Is there a reason why we would not want to do that? Right.
Well, I mean, what's the advantage of doing this, though? That's what I'm missing.
It is very cumbersome to balance the number of funds. I have a 6-page fund report, and I go and look at other cities, and their list of funds is a third of that. And when the Ombud commented to our list of funds, they go, why do you have so many funds? And it's
Never eliminate them.
never, well,
Rarely do.
some of it's that, yes. But
We add.
can I answer any other questions?
Well, getting back to that then, Martha, then is there what are your thoughts on if we eliminate our non-reverting funds except for one? Put them all in there, and then we would have to appropriate the money for them to be spent.
Right?
And then before we would do that,
Are we talking one for everybody? You'd have an awful lot of chiefs fighting over money.
Yeah, that's a lot to put on us. Well, you just made the comment that a lot of other cities
They have a lot
have a whole lot less, so it must be working.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, if you tell us where the monies came, if it's a gun permit that went in there, then we could get a report how much income came from gun permits, and I would assume that should go to the police, not the fire.
Right.
And we could do it. I'm just trying to think, if we're trying to simplify, why don't we simplify as much as we can, is my only question.
The one advantage to, well, I think you keeping them separate by department and function is an advantage in terms of that. I can, within this fund, I can segregate the monies as to what they are. In other words, I can identify where they're coming in and where they're going out by department or so. When you start to get everybody else commingled, I think you would start to argue with, and I'm having that problem with the donation fund in terms of there's all these different pieces going in there. So,
just asking the question.
right. I don't know if I want to run to that extreme yet.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Well, Monica, I know this will all be condensed into this one fund, which is fine, but will we have any way, if we did have a question concerning false alarms, or do we have any way to go back, if we ever had to find out where the money's coming from or not?
Tracking revenue?
Yeah, kind of like a tracking, even though it's all going into one account.
Well, a lot of that's done currently by the department. The software that I'm looking at, if we proceed with that, and I'll speak to the council on that hopefully our next council meeting, we're going to find a great deal of tracking of information. We'll have so much information you guys won't know what to do. But, and identify that. We're actually going to be invoicing everything internally with the system, so there'll be that tracking. But yes, you can still go back and look that information up.
We probably never have done it, but if we sell so many automobiles or something and the money goes into one non-reverting fund, there may be a question as the cars that we sold, what did we get for them, and would there be a way to...
Yeah, we can track that.
Yeah.
We can do that now.
Okay. I'll make a motion to pass 2012 OR 62.
On the first and second reading?
Yes, sir.
Motion second to pass 2012 OR 62 on first and second reading. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, Carmen, OR 63.
Now on to the one that person Owen had the most questions regarding. What I am doing, we did rewrite this ordinance. We hopefully have addressed the concerns that all we're doing again here is merging all of the funds that were established in the various ordinances. As a matter of fact, I established 2 of them, so I myself am guilty of the same issue for the trolleys and such, where these monies will be commingled in one fund but will be tracked. You still will be, all you'll be doing is depositing it in one account instead of having 5 different ones. It will be, I believe it will give the Parks Director more flexibility in when funds come in terms of if one year the Aquatic Center has a bad year because there's a lot of rain, but the football season's great, it gives you those receipts to help support the other programs and pay for the operating costs that need to be maintained. And then the council's not required to transfer funds as necessary. All of these functions are park operations and are still directed by the Parks Director, and we're just consolidating in one fund in terms of balancing purposes. I see an advantage to it, and am recommending it.
I'm more
Still be able to identify.
version of it. I'm more comfortable with this version of it.
And Scott, you looked at this?
Yes, I think there was a concern, the way it was written last time, it didn't specifically say it was repealing some of the Parks Board ordinances, but it kind of implied that.
Right.
But it had all these attachments and it was refilling certain ordinances. So if you look at this, the only ones that specifically are refilling are just the ordinances that were established in these different funds.
Right.
So there's no reference to the Parks Code itself, the original ordinances which established Parks Board.
Are you okay with it?
My only question would be that I don't have the ordinances here that are being repealed, Monica, I don't have in the packet.
I do have them.
These, I mean, I guess my question is on the last ordinance on 62, instead of necessarily repealing those other ordinances and those other funds.
Right.
You had that, you basically were getting rid of the funds, but all other provisions of the ordinances would remain in effect. I guess I'm curious because my only concern would be about reading these other ordinances with any other terms of provision that may still need to be applicable. I mean, I wonder if we can maybe modify this language that, similar to what we did in ordinance 62, where you're eliminating those funds, but not necessarily the ordinances, there's some term of provision.
We tabled it to be honest.
Okay, I don't have
I've not seen those.
Right,
You
and-
understand what I'm saying there?
Sure.
That until the next meeting?
We tabled this last meeting, so if we can pass on first and second, we can review.
Suggested language, because then, if there was any other term of provision in one of these ordinances that we don't want to, because all you're concerned about is not.
Our meetings is
Correct.
always
I
dry.
think, because we did that in the 62 one I just passed.
We have a motion by John and second by
Motion to pass on the first.
Mr. Samuel. Any other discussion?
And in your motion, on first reading,
I want it said.
amending,
Reviewing the amending the dots to,
that in your motion?
right?
yeah.
What is it?
Well, I mean, you're, on first reading, you're passing this with amended language that will have the first reading, that instead of repealing the entire ordinance, so you're just technically discontinuing the funds, but we'll have all other terms and provisions, if needed, that will be
And you're gonna review all that before that time, before the next.
I mean, if you've got this, I need to use your version to make sure.
So this is just a motion to pass on the first reading. Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Scott,
Thank you.
would you want me to email these to you tomorrow morning?
I've got the word for it. Thanks.
Ms. Harmon, 2012 OR 65.
Okay, before we proceed, I do only want you to read this, pass this on the second.
I'm sorry, 64. I'm sorry, 64.
This passed on the first reading, and I do want this to only pass on the second reading. I want to keep this open till the year end so that I'm continuing to resolve any shortfalls in the budget that have been identified by the various department heads, including what Chief Hedrick mentioned. At this point in time, we are not having to, I have not identified a need to, what I would say, raid, edit, or loit, which I'm sure the council will be pleased to hear. We are funding perf shortfalls because of the 5-year quarter, the 5 quarters in this current year, and then we have several departments that had some shortfalls that they need to make up. The two...
Monica, are you talking about 64 or 65?
This is 64, ordinance of additional appropriation by reduction.
Oh, okay, all right.
And this is the attachment to
All
it,
right, thank you.
yes. Okay, so where we've obtained some savings was that back at the beginning of the year, there was some transfer of funds done that were moved over concerns with funding projects in the Parks Department. And some of this is going to be restored back because we do have to meet those expenditures that were made under those. It's complicated, but those funds that are available within the council budget, as well as there are some funds left in insurance. And the reason we had funds left in insurance is that the city, I converted the city to paying insurance quarterly instead of annually at the beginning of the year. And we are renewing our insurance effective January 1, starting in 2013 to coincide with our annual budget. So we have excess budget funds in our insurance to cover some of these shortfalls. So this is, it's a nice find. I would think would make. And then some of the other fines are, if we need to, it depends on whether or not I get my contract on the software. I have $50,000 that I have yet to allocate for any shortfalls that we have in my budget that has not been spent as well. So These are all the items. One area that probably has not been brought to the council's attention, it's a material amount. The police department had a shortfall in overtime even following the additional appropriation, and it is a result of the recalculation of overtime that was based on the raises that they received after they got their negotiated contract completed. So this was 2011 overtime, and this got shuffled around and just got lost in the numbers, and that's what we're covering on that. Otherwise, all these other items are just various expenditures, and I can address each one individually if you want to. I would suggest you review them and perhaps call me or the department head.
We're making up for 2011 overtime in the police department?
Correct. That was when they issued the raises, the back pay raises. That impacts your overtime because your overtime rate is changed, and as a result of that, you get caught up in your overtime.
How are we just catching up with it?
It got shuffled into the wrong account by mistake. My staff moved it to another budget line item, and it wasn't noticed till then. So it was in a payroll account. It was not identified.
So it's there, it just needs to be moved?
It's there, it needs to be moved, and it needs to be paid for. Yeah, budget funds need to be provided for it.
What's all the park items? Those are pretty large items. That's on our next one. That's on the next. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was in the text, so.
No.
Can I separate them?
It's 2 pages.
That's 2 pages?
2 pages go together, yes.
Okay.
What happened was that back in January, when the council, they pulled all $1.3 million of the budget, capital budget out of parks. That was then put into the council's capital budget. And never was that returned back to the parks. It was aligned into one account number because that's the way the ordinance was written. When we went through our budget reductions, we then turned around and reduced those other line items within the parks budget so that they got a double hit. And that was not the council's intent. These are approved expenditures, they were budgeted for, all the money was sitting in the parks, or in the council's budget. I need to get the money back in there to cover those shortfalls. What we are covering was the lease payments, some capital improvements for parks, some miscellaneous equipment, those kind of things. And I believe Paul Northam, the director, would be able to explain specifically what was purchased with those funds.
You want this passed on the second reading only?
That's correct.
So moved.
You have a second? I have a question. Before a second, I guess, since people are thinking about it. On here, it usually says if it's been passed or tabled, but it doesn't show that it's even been passed on the first reading. Was it passed on the first reading?
I have it shown as passed on the first reading.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah,
on your agenda, you usually put it right next to it. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. I'll second. All right, there's a motion and a second to pass 2012 OR 64 on the second reading. Any you get a second on that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Sullivan over there. He's so quiet, sometimes you can't hear.
He was denied, isn't he?
Yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right.
Last one.
One more time. Now we get to 65.
Now we get to 65. This is the additional $500,000 that Mr. Lewis advertised on behalf of the council. This is for the additional appropriation on the band. I can go through the whole spiel, but we only appropriated 3.5. Now we're appropriating the other 5, $500,000.
This is that $500,000 on the band note that we wanted to stick in there. Motion to approve.
Motion and second to pass 2012 OR 65 on the third and final reading. Any other discussion?
I guess one discussion. There's litigation going on currently, and if we add additional borrowing capacity and the Parks Authority goes away, then we're handing the mayor and
and the administration, it's only $500,000 compared to the $3.5 million. But I'm just making an observation that, do we need to wait until
But the Parks Authority is not going to. I had some of the same concerns, but I think the way it's written up, these monies can only be used for the Visiting Park project or the soccer project. That's it.
That's it.
There were, this is the incorporation, the bond ordinance has actually already been approved.
It spells that out.
The bond ordinance has a specific description of the project.
Okay, right.
That money
Can't be
can
spent.
only be
And we
used
have-
pursuant to the descriptions in that bond.
Right.
This is just the appropriation.
And Visiting Park's just about done, so, I mean, you gotta pay for it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for all my...
No, thank you.
That's city business.
New business, Laura Renwick from Historic Landmarks.
Oh, and thank you for having me here today. I've got some...
Just put her on your agenda.
The reason Laura's on here, if I can speak real quick, because I know that probably, when we did did the agreement with them, you all had asked that she come and kind of give an update, so I contacted her. It's been a while since we've done that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity, and if you would like to have me come back, annually and do this, I'm more than happy to do that. Just let me know. I wanted to provide a little bit of background just because some of you may not be as familiar with what the Historic Preservation Commission does and the relationship that Indiana Landmarks has with the Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission was created by city ordinance initially in 1984. That was revised in 1997. And some of the purposes for that ordinance were to promote the educational, cultural, and general welfare of the citizens, ensure harmonious growth, maintain established neighborhoods, enhance property values and attract new residents, and ensure the viability of the downtown area and enhance tourism. At that point, there was also a map adopted that designated a local historic district and focusing that district along the Spring Street and the Riverside Drive corridor and also a little bit into the side streets. Within that district, there's a 7-member Historic Preservation Commission, all volunteer members, all residents of the city that are charged with reviewing any exterior alterations, demolition, new construction, or moving of buildings within that district. Indiana Landmarks has contracted with the city to help provide administrative services to the Preservation Commission since 1996. So it's a long-established relationship, and the contract amount is $4,000, and that actually has remained unchanged that entire time. During the past year, the staff, which is me at the moment, has provided staff comments to the Preservation Commission on 12 Certificate of Appropriateness applications in the Historic District. It's kind of a low number. I think the economic downturn has kind of impacted the amount of work that's gone on in the district. But I certainly hope that with the, upswing in the economy and the Big Four Bridge and things like that, that's going to be increasing again. I'm typically the first contact for folks who are wanting to do work in the historic district. I try to meet with them, talk with them about their project, give them some feedback before they go through the application process. I provide staff reports for the Preservation Commission at their meetings, provide digital images so they can see what the applicant is talking about. And I also try to be very proactive, and if I see a for sale sign go up in the historic district, I contact the realtor just so that they are aware it's in the historic district and that they can pass that information on to the prospective buyers so that they know what exactly they're getting themselves into. I've also provided staff approval of 6 other certificate of appropriateness applications. Per the ordinance, there are certain smaller scale items that I can approve as staff. The Commission has continued to work to revise and update the design guidelines. Those were adopted more than a decade ago and didn't necessarily cover everything, all the changes in technology, new materials, things like that. So we're working our way slowly through those guidelines to get those updated and make sure that they're current and comprehensive. Our ultimate goal is to get all those guidelines posted on the city's website so that potential applicants have a handy way to review those and have that knowledge right up front. Also have provided training opportunities and educational materials for the commission members and meet with any new commission members ahead of time to orient them, make sure they have all their necessary documents and things like that. And for the second year in a row, the Preservation Commission has partnered with the Preservation Commission in New Albany and sponsored a photo scavenger hunt. The pictures were published in the newspaper, and folks were able to go out and try to identify those pictures. So it was very popular. We had a lot of entries, got a lot of positive feedback. So I think that's something that we are hoping to continue doing in the future. So I know this is kind of quick and dirty, but I just wanted to provide you kind of a snapshot of what the Commission is doing and what Landmarks is doing in its role with the Commission. And if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer them. And I've also attached my card to that information, so feel free to contact me.
Ms. Remick, I have a question. How does the Preservation Commission work with our Planning Commission, or do they?
They do. Russ Seagraves, the Building Commission, is actually the closest thing that we work with. He attends our meetings and provides that input as they are reviewing applications. If there are any issues or items that we have questions about, we certainly speak with and consult with the Plan Department staff, but the closest relationship is with the Building Commissioner's office.
So the Preservation Commission, can they impose greater criteria or qualifications on the historical property? Can they trump or go above and beyond our Plan Commission?
Per the ordinance, if there is a conflict between the two ordinances, the more restrictive does apply. So in certain things, we may have...
I was going to answer that for you, because they can.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Dan Williams, Pro Media. I was on the receiving end. Okay. Joyce Riddle, Barbara Donahue, the arts. Nanaya. All right. Moving on. Number 4, Les Merkley, 2012 OR and ordinance changing the zoning map designation. Les, you've got a little taller.
Better looking, too. If we could get an ordinance number. 66. There were a couple meetings going on the night that this took place. I covered Plan Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals while Mr. Merkley was at the redevelopment. So I was actually here when this was passed. It does only take one reading. This would amend the zoning map and does require a public hearing.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is anybody who'd like to speak regarding this possible zoning change on 301 Pearl Street?
You don't have to.
There is somebody, I think. Would you like to speak?
It's her building.
Oh, it's your building? Oh, no, you don't have to. If you like to, you're welcome to.
I don't think she wants to.
You don't have to. As long as you're available for questions, we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, great. That's great. Anyone else interested? With that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
This is a zoning change for lots number 144, 145 at 301 Pearl Street in Jeffersonville, from R3 Old City Residential to NC Neighborhood Commercial. This is a property that adjoins the Big Four landing area, the ramp, and is Rodea? Yes? Okay. And her husband. Yeah, Rhodey, I remember that from the meeting. They own this property, and they're looking at starting a yogurt shop. Frozen yogurt. It was passed unanimously for a favorable recommendation at the Plan Commission.
I think this is exactly what we want to see, right there by the landing, that development, that businesses are already lining up. We appreciate it.
Tom, I have a question.
Yes,
sir. I had went to redevelopment, but how did they address off-street parking?
Yes, a couple of different ways. I think it's their plan that the vast majority of people will be the walking and biking customers from the ramp. Secondly, with the Big Four
we'll be right there.
Plaza area, there will be some additional parking that'll be right around the corner. I know there were a couple people that addressed some residential parking concerns.
Well, that's always an issue.
Of course, yes.
There was one, the next door neighbor definitely that she did, and I actually drove by there, and two of her neighbors actually have the resident-only parking sign. She's actually the only one there who doesn't. Across the street's apartments, and then the other two corners are already commercial.
Right, and I think this is going to be one of those issues that is going to develop a little bit as far as the parking and residential parking, and I think as long as we all keep an open mind about those people that do want to retain a residence there and come up with some solutions for them, I think we'll be fine in the long term.
Well, the reason I point that out is there's going to be other parcels that's probably going to want to do the same thing.
I agree.
And so as long as, if we're making an exception to this, then we're going to have to make an exception, which is fine, but I'm just saying, keep that in mind, like you said, that we're going to have to make exceptions to other residential pieces that the perimeter of that or any park that does not offer the minimum off-street parking.
Right, and I know the current plan for this piece of property is for all or vast majority of walk-up and bike-up business. And, you know, Ms. Sellers is on the Plan Commission. I know that was one of the concerns that was addressed, and I think it's probably going to be one of those things that's going to need to be addressed on a request-by-request basis, depending on what the proposed use of the property is. This one had a more limited impact. There may be others that might come forward that may have a larger impact on the parking. We'll have to address those as they come. But I think as long as we're sensitive to the residents that are down there and try to address those concerns as they come up and as the area around the ramp develops, I think in the end they'll be fine. But it'll be a concern that we just need to keep an eye on and address as it comes up.
I was going to say all of Chestnut Street from Pearl to Mulberry, I believe, will be taken out, so there won't even be any side street parking.
Right.
Do we have anything in place, or do we need to address signage in this area moving forward, since this is going to be more of a kind of plaza-type feel? Do we have anything that kind of gives them guidance as to what their signage on the outside has to look like?
That's zoning.
Yeah,
They
that's
have restrictions in that.
Board of Zoning Appeals.
You have to go for that for signage.
I think he's asking, is there anything specific to this area?
Do we need anything more restrictive or
Well, I'm not even saying more
definitive?
Yes, I'm just saying if we're going to try to blend this area into one field, do we have anything that's going to kind of push landowners to certain signage that makes it,
Right.
you know,
less obtrusive to the...
Yes. And doesn't, is not 60 foot tall, that tends to,
In other words, it would blend with the signage that we have in the park.
Sure, I mean, is it monosigning, is it gonna, are you gonna allow neon? I'm just saying in this particular area here, have we thought about that?
I can address that just a little bit. At one point, I had a zoning waiver for this particular property, and so I had to go through getting a sign for my business there, and there are restrictions. And so I had to meet all the restrictions for having a sign for my business at that point. So there are restrictions in place now.
And I guess I shouldn't, that's not personal towards your business. I'm just looking at, as this area is going to start to grow, do we want to tackle it now that all of them have that same feel, or do we want to wait, 10 years down the road when we got 15 different looks, and then, that's just my opinion.
I will say this, there are already sign restrictions in place under the current zoning ordinance that would prohibit the 60-foot tall, what you're talking about.
Right, but I guess my point is, when we did Visiting Park, we looked at signs that looked like each other, that gave you a certain feel of what different path you were on. Are we going to look at this as a council, as a planning commission moving forward?
I'm not sure that's the council's responsibility. To me, that's a redevelopment project, and it'd either be redevelopment or you'd have to talk to the planning.
When you go through planning and zoning, and both sides can agree to change the sign ordinances or sign requirements, and you can also designate corridors to have special limitations or designations for signs. And I think we have done that. We have done that in the past, and I think we even started to do that when it was going to be a canal district. Right. Now, I don't think that was ever completed. Obviously, we didn't go that direction, but it might be worth revisiting that and saying, okay, what kind of look and feel do we want to have in the downtown?
The way signage, you remember that?
No, I don't.
The way signage, I don't know if Nathan or Dennis was on the board when they was talking about the way signage, which was on all of Jeffersonville.
It was Gateway, Gateway signage.
I think we're getting on to a different issue though, and I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve 2012 OR 66.
Second. Good luck. You going to be open year-round?
Yes.
Hasn't been bad yet, guys.
Chocolate in the winter, right?
Hot chocolate.
Not these ones.
Bagels. Pretty good.
Question. We have a motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second for 2012. 2012 OR 66. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Good luck.
All right. Thank you and good luck.
Congratulations.
I'll come and see you.
All right. Number 5, item number 5 is out of redistricting. Zach Payne, why don't you lead the way on that?
I'll start out there.
The OR 67.
Yeah, what is presented before you, this did not get in your packet earlier tonight. I just got the information emailed today from the consultant that the city had hired, Jacoby Coombs and Williams, to review the redistricting. And this is a proposed ordinance for redistricting the common council districts. And the reason why this is being done is because pursuant to Indiana Code 36-4-6-3, subsection G, that redistricting of council districts for either cities or towns is required during the second year after a year in which a federal census is conducted. And the most recent federal census that it was conducted was 2010. So this is the second year, 2012 is the second calendar year after the most recent federal census. So this is something that's required by law. In year one after a federal census, the first year after federal census, the county commissioners are required to re-precinct the entire county. That's exclusively done by the county commissioners. So last year in 2011, the county commissioners re-precinct. And then in 2012, all the cities and towns have to redistrict. So I think earlier in the year, the council had decided to retain the services of Jacoby Toombs and Lands, which has assisted the city before and also assist the county in both re-precincting and redistricting to analyze population of the districts and try to make them as equal as possible. So
Before you is the proposal for the 6 districts. This is a second-class city, to remind everyone. We have 6 districts, and we have 3 at-large representatives. The proposed maps are also attached to this proposed ordinance for each of the 6 individual districts. As you can see, the particular precincts that comprise each district are spelled out in the ordinance. And just to remind everyone, pursuant to Indiana code, when you're contemplating establishing districts, there are certain requirements. First, that they are to be composed of contiguous territory, except for any territory that is not contiguous to any other part of the city. Secondly, that the districts are reasonably compact. Third, that the districts do not cross precinct boundary lines, except in those instances where a particular district would otherwise not contain equal population. And 4, that they contain nearly as possible equal population. So really, there's no way that you're ever going to get every single district totally equal in population. You have to be as close as possible. And just to point out that there are, in District 1 and District 2, there is a precinct that is proposed to be divided. Part of Precinct 6 is proposed to be in District 1. Part of Precinct 6 is also proposed to be in District 2. So that is a proposal before the board tonight. I'll have Mr. Booker talk more about the process that he went through on behalf of the city in analyzing these districts with the proposals. Just procedurally, just to let you know that this is something that we do have to adopt before the end of the year. So one thing that we would have to do also procedurally, since we are proposing, if that goes through, to split a precinct, which is Precinct 6, pursuant to the statute, if there's a proposal that a boundary is going to split a precinct, that we do have to provide written notice to the clerk of the county circuit court before final adoption, at least 10 days before final adoption. So tonight, if that's our pleasure to go ahead and adopt this with the split precinct, I would recommend that this ordinance be passed on first reading tonight, and then I will immediately send a written notice to the circuit court clerk, which would be timely, at least 10 days before our next meeting, which would be December 17th, and then December 17th, then you would have the final adoption of this ordinance. And then after it's adopted, one other procedural thing would be that then the adopted ordinance is actually filed in the circuit court clerk's office within 30 days of final adoption, where you actually file stamp it. I would do that, obviously, as legal counsel. So, before there's any other questions, I have Todd, if you want to come up and speak about, and answer any questions. He's the one that did the actual technical review. Go ahead, Todd.
Before we move forward, I want to make note that the maps look like they're correct. But, yeah, the maps are correct, but the precincts listed in the districts on the actual ordinance, there seem to be a number of problems with it. I guess there's communication error somewhere between the 3 of us. But if you all want to go out your pens, I can tell you what the problems are. District 3, 24 should not be included in District 3.
I'm sorry, District 3?
District 3, 24 is not should not be included there.
Okay.
Utica 2, it should be part of Utica 2, not all of Utica 2, because Utica 2 is split by the commissioners into 2 sections already. District 5 should not include 20, and it should be part of 24. In the same case there, the commissioners have split that. There's actually 2 different 24s. And District 6, Utica 2, it should be part of Utica 2.
And that information, and that was what was emailed me today, was in that ordinance.
Okay. Right.
I was just the scrivener as what was emailed.
Right.
So correct. It is. Okay.
It is my fault.
I just did what I was emailed.
Do you know are we within the spread?
Yes, it is, typically it's 10%, and we are well within the spread. And I'll give you those numbers because I know that the numbers within the ordinance are...
Can't see them very well.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see the numbers. So for District 1, we have a total population of 7,836.
7,000 what?
836.
It's on page 1, right here.
Yeah, it's just really small.
Yeah, speak up, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. For District 2, we have a population of 7,218. For District 3, we have a population of 7,390. For District 4, we have a population of 7,000... Am I going too fast?
No, go ahead.
265.
You have it down here? Yeah, it's right there.
For District 5, we have a population of 7,473. And for District 6, we have a population of 7,771. And that is to a total of 44,953 in population within all 6 districts, with an average of 7,492. So we are well within our 10%. And the process was, working with Mr. Payne, that we provided maps that, of course, all you guys saw and had suggestions on, and Mr. Payne, relayed the information back to myself, and we also worked with 39 Degrees North that works with the county, and so we thought it would be a good idea, since we had worked with them before, to go ahead and include them, and we, of course, take care of them through our contract. So, after getting the information back from Mr. Payne, then we were able to look at these numbers and make sure they fit in within that 10%. And they were contiguous in all the other things that are mentioned within the ordinance, as far as not crossing precinct lines and things like that. Where we did have to split, we made sure we did it according to election division laws.
Mr. Booker, Todd, is it possible, whether it's 39 Degrees North or you guys, to provide the city with this for our website so people can go on and see what district they're in, find it?
Yes, and what I'd like to do is to go ahead and provide this map to be put on the website, and also to provide the clerk's office an oversized map, probably 30 by 42, so you can get a better, no? Okay. A larger map, and I would have brought one tonight, but I did not. So I will make sure that's provided tomorrow, so we'll have a large viewing map for the public and for the council, of course. And
Scott, I have a question. One of my concerns is that they still have me listed in precinct 17, which will be outside my district. Is that something that we're going to be able to clear up before we vote on these maps?
Well, that's the commissioners have to take the action, and as you know, I've had multiple discussions with the commissioner's attorney and with the county clerk. Because we have no control over the precincts. Re-precincting is the commissioners, and they're aware. I will once again follow up with Gray and fight with the commissioner's attorney. I've had multiple
discussions. Just saying, for some reason they don't correct that, and they continue to place me in precinct 17. How can I run for office in District 2 if I'm not in
the
precinct?
as I told you before, if they're refusing to correct a problem which they have acknowledged through email, I think you've seen email, if they're not going to do anything, file suit. Since you're an office holder, that needs to get a court order to correct it. I've been told around.
Why not? Is it going to be possible to pass this year? And assuming that something is make up an option starting January 1, that we can get it
Just so y'all know that when they drew the lines, they messed up some lines. I mean, they admit that.
They acknowledge that in email. They messed up.
And so on my street, there's a line moved across some properties for about 7 properties and then jumped back. And for those 7 properties, I was one of those 7, put us in a different district, only if the line hit your house. Now, if it hit your property line, but didn't hit your house, it kept you in
15, but if it hit your house, I said, okay, that's how we're going to designate it going to 17. And it hit my house, so I went to 17, as well as a couple of my neighbors.
And to clarify that a little bit, which of course, I've seen the problem, spatial inaccuracies between the photography and the precinct lines and the accuracies of sets of data within the state, which they're trying to reconcile. But when you take the photography, which is fairly good and tight, and then you take old precinct lines that were drawn on maps and then superficially put on top, there are some corrections that need to be made.
And I recognize that there's going to be some mistakes and the corrections need to be made. I just want some of those corrections to happen.
Yeah, there's no way
to do that. What precinct I'm in, what district I'm in, kind of.
Correct.
Real quick, and this is just a sidebar conversation, but how hard is it to get these addresses that are in these districts added to GIS?
It is all within the GIS.
So we should be able, instead of put a map on our webpage, you should be able to, with our technology, type in an address and it pop up what district you're in, instead of looking at these maps, because I know they kind of go down streets and cut off in the middle of streets, and sometimes it's left for interpretation. I mean, you should be able to type in your address, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And what 39 Degrees North have done for the county is you can go in and type in an address, as probably many of you have used their website. What they can do is take that same information, tailor-make it for the city of Jeffersonville, to where you can type in an address and it'll have what district you're in, based on county information.
Okay.
So that would not be a difficult thing at all.
Other than going to 39 degrees, how is the public notified? Because I had that issue before, because I picked up 8 was new, I went there, no, you're not, I have that, no. How is the public, how are they notified? There's a lot of confusion.
The clerk has to send out,
Yes.
not her, the
County clerk. Apparently that
has
was
to mail it out.
But there also at 39 degrees north, too, there's a public view, and there's also another view that the county has, which is a little bit different, because I know I was involved with getting 39 degrees north for the county. So, what the public might see may be a little bit different than what, and the only people here that have it is planning and zoning. And I think building commissioner's office has it too.
So what you're saying is that if we have a map,
Their information is a little bit different than what we have.
Okay.
Which I can have Chris Walls come down for, of course, a meeting in between and or at the next meeting to clarify and to...
Because right now...
That'd be
Yes, not a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, and I wasn't
If we would
pulling
do
that
that
about,
before the
yeah.
next meeting, that,
Yeah,
Let's
because,
do it for the next
a
meeting.
work session type situation, that's something you all like to do.
We spoke a while ago, and you mentioned like a workshop.
I don't know,
Sending
do you
this,
want to do a workshop on it?
you mentioned sending this
Or just
plan
for
off to
city
the
council?
Secretary of State,
Workshop?
Yes, what you did.
and they signed off on
Workshop
it.
for
so
Yes.
City council.
As far as the districts go,
Yeah.
within what we've done, yes.
Let's have him come during the city council and we talk about this next time. So we need to pass this on the first reading tonight, Scott?
Yes, with the amendments, because as Zach had identified, the information was incorrect. Recently, so what we identified earlier, corrections on first reading.
So I make a motion to pass 2012 R67 with the changes to District 3, excluding 24, part of Utica 2, District 5, no 20, part of 24, and District 6, part of Utica 2.
second.
Have motion and second to pass 2012 OR 67 on the first reading with those changes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, pass on first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, letter to Attorney General, Councilperson Smith.
Yes, there was a letter sent out today, the Attorney General, and this has to do with the Clark County Wellness Center, or it has come to be known as the Pill Mill. The Attorney General, Greg Zeller, asked the Medical License Board today to suspend Dr. Leah Morrow. Dr. Leah Morrow is the physician at the Clark County Wellness. To suspend Dr. Leah Morrow's license for unacceptable prescribing practices, Since January, Dr. Marlowe prescribed more than 8,000 prescriptions to 3,489 patients, with 95% of them prescriptions is oxycodone. The Attorney General has filed an emergency suspension of Dr. Marlowe's license. According to the petition, she does not accept insurance companies' payments. Instead, she does a cash-only business. The board will consider a suspension at its December 6th meeting. If granted, Dr. Marlowe will be put on a 90-day, she will not be allowed to practice medicine for 90 days while a formal complaint has been drafted. And I guess that I just condensed that, but what I'm asking, and I guess a council support to have our attorney send a letter. Now, this has to be done before December 6th, so it is close. Maybe it'd be a letter, maybe it'd be emailed, however Scott would want to do it, to the Attorney General, and I guess to the Medical License Board as well, supporting the suspension of Dr. Leah Marlowe from practicing medicine, obviously in Jeffersonville, but just to support her license being pulled. And I'm asking for a council support for Scott to do that. So this just happened, I guess, late this evening. As a matter of fact, while I was working in Floyd County, I didn't even have a service on my phone, so I didn't get it till I hit the city of New Albany. So this is something new, and it is the December 6th is the initial meeting. But there's a lot more to it than that. I condensed it. It was pretty interesting.
Are you making a motion to
Yes.
have?
Scott, make a motion to have our attorney Scott Lewis draft something, and Scott can word it at his discretion, basically sending a letter or email, however he suits, to Greg Zeller, who's the Attorney General, and probably the Medical License Board as well, about this issue of Dr. Leah Marlowe and the Clark County Medical Wellness Center.
So we have a motion and a second to go ahead and have our attorney write that letter, I guess,
Yeah, just to let you know, it'll probably have to be emailed, because if this thing's on the 6th tomorrow,
Yeah.
I've got the union negotiations
That's fine.
all day tomorrow, fire and police, so there's no, with the letter in the mail.
Emails count. That's fine.
That's fine. We've been fighting this since January, and of course, I know Tom has been instrumental in some things. So, anyway, that's my motion. Yes, sir.
Mike, just real quick, just for discussion, does this doctor own this clinic?
No.
So it's very possible they could suspend that, but plug in another doctor and keep on moving, correct?
I would.
We've been having some discussion about that. There are some records that we need to look at from the Plan Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals meetings that took place regarding that. We're looking.
Because I guess my only comment would be, I totally agree with your letter and support, but I would also want to make that letter a little bit stronger, and not only that we support the licensing board disqualifying their license, but also taking action on the fact that they're just going to move in another doctor, so you're not really taking care of the root of the problem. So, for whatever it's worth, I agree with you. I just wanted to see if that was possible that they could plug somebody back in. So.
So what you want to say, maybe Dr. Leah Marlowe and the Clark County Wellness Facility, to put in the name of the business as well?
I don't know. Scott's kind of rolling his eyes over that, but maybe it's not really. That's probably rather the jurisdiction of this hearing.
Guys, that's your suggestion. I'm saying legally, I don't think that's not the issue before the board.
Right.
The jurisdiction they only have regarding
that particular doctor.
Certification of that.
Now, I think it looks like the 6th meeting is actually to suspend her license until the Attorney General can draft a formal complaint that will go to the board in 90 days after that.
Okay.
And not only does she have a medical license, she also has a CSR, which is for controlled substances prescription. So both of those will be taken care of.
Okay. But that license, the CSR license, does it follow her or does it follow the facility? It's hers. Okay. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to have our attorney general send an email or communication to that board, I guess. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
That's it.
Scott?
Do we have any public comments?
No.
Can I ask something real quick,
Sure.
sir? Scott, do you want me to get you the addresses for the medical license board and everybody? Okay, I'll email to you
I've
tomorrow.
got a map. They're all from Eastern Kentucky.
All right, moving along, there's no public comments, so we'll go ahead and go to city council comments. Mr. Smith?
No, I'll just briefly pertaining this pill mill, of course, I know everybody here is familiar with it, but I think Franklin Commons, I just want to point it out that their neighborhood group has been very vigilant in really overseeing this and monitoring. The question was asked about the actual patients, and for the record, they have a map. They documented the map of the cars that were visiting this facility, and they're from Eastern Kentucky and Western Virginia. It was a 2 or 3 hour drive they drove to this, So, and actually other states. But then Eastern Kentucky was huge, but Franklin Commons Group did very well. I also wanted to, a while back, myself and some representatives from Franklin Commons, Dennis Julius went up with us. Nathan was at the other end of town. He came over at the meeting, and we had Representative Stemler and Senator Grooms there, and we spoke in front of the, Mr. Groom set it up, but we actually spoke there at Indianapolis against this, and they allowed us plenty of time, and I think there was plenty of ears listening, so I think it was a joint venture, and it looks like successful, so anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Mr. Payne?
I want to comment on Matt and I took a trip to Boston to the National League Executive Conference this past week. I was there from Wednesday to Saturday, and he was there from Tuesday to Friday. And it went very well. We learned lots of new things, met new people, and it was a very good experience. And I think we're going to see a lot of new ideas coming from the two of us from attending this event. So.
Good. Ms. Harris?
Friday I attended this bicycle-friendly seminar because I'm so athletic, but evidently I was the only council person who was available to attend.
Yes,
and Shane Corbin put this on, and there was like over 40 people from all across the state and from Kentucky, so it was a very good seminar. And it was all about developing bike lanes, making it a bicycle-friendly community. And one thing that I think that he's going to do, and we might have to come up with some ordinances here in the council too, but as we develop new roadways to incorporate bike lanes or some way to make it biker-friendly. And they had the maps with the different roadways marked out, the really bad ones, like Hamburg Pike, where I know I drive that. I think Ed goes down there quite a bit, where it's dangerous for someone to be on a bike.
It's dangerous just to be in a car.
Yeah. So anyway, it was very good, and Shane did a very good job organizing it. So just letting you know that's probably going to be coming up shortly.
All right, Ms. Gill?
Josh Rodriguez called me tonight that he received word through the Jeffersonville Neighborhood Leadership Alliance received word that the city of Jeffersonville won an award again this year for our participation in National Night Out.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big thing. That neighborhood, they took over, JNLA really took over that, and our participation almost tripled this year, and so we should get recognition for that. So, yay, Jeffersonville.
Is that it? Mr. Weber? Just a quick reminder to our negotiation committee that we are meeting tomorrow, although it's not Boston. It should be rather exciting. We got a meeting from 9 to 12 and then from 1 to 4, so bring your hammers. I'll see you in the morning.
You bringing donuts?
Hammers, just... Mr. Lewis? I'm good. Mr. Allen?
Actually, I wanted to ask about the negotiations because I know we're coming up on the end of the year. Are we on track to have something?
We are on a track.
We don't know.
Well, without going into detail, we have been, I would say, very diligent in looking at wording, contractual language. I would say that the painstaking process that has taken so far, the next council that has to do this should not have to look very deep into the wording. Would you agree, Scott?
Yeah, we've been very thorough and in-depth in correcting, like I said, without revealing any confidentiality negotiations.
Sure.
But correcting all the ambiguity and gray areas of the language. So it will definitely help future councils.
Do you feel the money spent on the additional attorneys was money well spent?
Yes.
Absolutely. I would say moving forward, again, the next time this rolls around, it should not be the painstaking process that's been so far. And I think both sides see that. That's just not from the council side. I think both sides kind of see that this process is slow, but it was needed, so.
The only other thing I wanted to say was I want to apologize to the clerk and her staff for moving a little too quickly earlier. Our meetings seem to lag on for my taste, so I try to pick it
We'll
up when I
forgive you
can.
this time.
I'm sorry.
Not in the next.
I think there was something else, but I forgot, so go ahead.
Mr. Sarah, two things. Well, during our meeting, I received a text that our visiting park lights are on.
Oh, that was the other thing. They were testing the lights on the ball field today, tonight. Well, they look great.
And one of the neighbors was excited about it, but then they want to know when they're going to shut them off. I encourage them to go get some sunglasses. So that's good, it's progress, and that's a positive thing. And the last comment is, I need this on the agenda for the next meeting, but our public art study is, we're going to have an official presentation of our report. I think it'll be really good, and the intent is to then have some next steps for next year. So that's going to be on the December 17th. We'll have that.
Do you want anything more in the Bells building?
No news. There? That's all.
I don't have anything other than Mr. Owen. I try to move the meetings around.
Sorry.
And try to get everyone a chance to speak. And I know it's a constant balancing act of cutting people off, and you do an excellent job. That's right. All right, with that, meeting's adjourned.
Okay, that's your